What is up, guys? Delboy here. So a video has emerged of Deontay Wilder on the pads, and it has resulted in a lot of negative backlash, I suppose you would say, in regards to his technique on the pads, his form, how open he is, and just his all-round ability on the pads, I suppose. And a lot of people are really reading into this. Now, from a person who, I've never boxed amateur, all I've done is spar. I've been around in boxing gyms for a few years now. I've seen some bits and bobs, as we all have. People who have been in boxing gyms, even at the lowest of low levels like me, you'd have seen some things. And what I will say is, I've seen a lot of people who look competent on the bag or nice and sharp on the pads, but when they get in the ring, that doesn't necessarily translate. I've seen a lot of people who are good on the bag or on the pads. They go in the ring and maybe they're scared to let their hands go. Maybe they don't know how to deal with return fire. Their judge of range might be bad. I've seen that before. And pads, don't get me wrong, they have their benefits. I'm not saying they are useless, because they're not. But, like I said, I've seen people who are good on the pads, and when they go in the ring, it doesn't, they're not as good in the ring as they are on the pads, put it that way. It is cliche, but, pads don't hit back. A heavy bag doesn't hit back. These things are good for hand-eye coordination. They're good for drills, they're good for certain things. They're good for practicing combinations to a point. But I'm in the belief that the only way you can truly make progress as a fighter and truly improve is by sparring. Or obviously by fighting if you're a pro or an amateur. They're the ways you improve for the most part. Bag work, pad work, you can only learn so much. The way you improve is fighting. And by sparring. Now, when you're on the pads, that is not going to teach you how to read an opponent's sort of body language, how to read into what the opponent is going to do next, whether he is going to throw a jab, whether he is going to, maybe lead with his right hand, or, whatever it may be. It's not going to teach you that. You're only going to learn that while you're sparring, while you're fighting. That is when you learn that. You learn through experience. You learn through fighting various different styles and different stances. That's how you truly learn, in my opinion. Pads are good for a certain thing. They're good for hand-eye coordination to a point. They are good for learning combinations to a point. They're a good drill. They're not useless. They're good for muscle memory mainly. That's what I think they're best for, in my opinion. They're good, but listen, far too much emphasis is placed in how good somebody looks on a heavy bag or on the pads. And maybe that's because of the whole, Mayweather pad work, that was it was kind of highly publicised on the 24/7 documentaries and the All Access documentaries when you got to see Floyd train. Maybe it's from then, but I think some people place far too much emphasis on how good somebody looks in essentially a non-combat situation. Like I said, pads don't hit you back. I would rather see somebody in, sparring and fighting to gauge my opinion on them. And look at Deontay Wilder's fights. The guy ain't perfect. The guy has technical flaws. We know this, but he does things well. He's got an awkward style which is hard to time. It's hard to read. Deontay Wilder, again, he's no Pernell Whitaker, but he doesn't get hit that much. And that's because a number of things. Number one, his awkward style. Number two, I think he's actually fairly competent at judging range. He's got nice quick feet. He's got good reaction times. He has that power, and it kind of makes opponents wary of coming forward. His defense as a heavyweight is better than most. Again, I'm not saying it's perfect, but it's better than the vast majority of heavyweights out there. Wilder in a lot of fights doesn't really get hit that much. Even in the fights where he has been hit a bit, like the Duhaupas fight, for example. Yes, Wilder had a big problem in stopping the Duhaupas jab, but he never really got hit that much with power shots. And in the Ortiz fight, yes, he got hurt in round 7, I want to say, but apart from round 7, again, he didn't really get hit with that many power shots. He got hit with a few here and there, and he was getting outboxed, but he wasn't getting caught with too many silly shots. For the most part, again, there were moments in the fight where he was getting caught, but for somebody as bad as apparently Deontay Wilder is, you know, he should be getting hit a lot more. That's what I'm trying to say. You know, if Deontay Wilder is as bad as some of you guys make out, he would have been beat by now. If we are to use pad work as a gauge of how good a fighter is, you know, Deontay Wilder wouldn't even be a world champion. You know? And sometimes as boxing fans, and not only boxing fans, but coaches in general, especially in the UK, they see somebody doing something different and they automatically assume they are wrong. You know, Deontay Wilder has a weird style. He's gangly, he's awkward, he does do things wrong, but it's working for him. If it's working for you, I mean, what more do you really want to do? You know, I kind of fight in a way where, for myself personally, when I spar and when I hit the bag and when I hit the pads, I like to have my hands low, not because I'm trying to be a Flash Harry or not because I'm trying to be cocky, because I'm not good enough to be, but that's just how I feel comfortable. I feel comfortable being a long, tall, gangly guy. I feel comfortable with my defence being my legs and my judgment of distance. Hence why I don't really, in a lot of times in sparring and on the bags and on the pads, I don't really hold my hands up too high, apart from when I'm up close. And a lot of coaches that I've been around obviously automatically say, oh no, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong. But that's how I feel comfortable. I don't feel comfortable fighting textbook, hands high, tight guard, even from range. You know, I don't feel comfortable doing that. You know, sometimes you need a good coach he'll tailor his coaching to the fighter. You know, he won't try a one-size-fits-all approach. And a lot of coaches do that. A lot of fancy boxing that way. You know, especially, and coaching, especially in the UK. There's a big one-size-fits-all approach when in reality, I feel a good coach can look at a style and without having to change that style, he can implement improvements, you know. But that's just my opinion. I'm kind of waffling now, but yeah, share your thoughts below. I think this is an interesting topic, something a bit different. I would like to get into the technical side of boxing a little bit more than I do. Share your thoughts below. Peace.